And we are live. It's Wednesday. DFS OG's back in the house, presented by our friends over at FanDuel. Make sure you guys get over there and check out all the offerings in the FanDuel lobby, including the single entry series still going on for MLB. $50 buy-in and a $1 buy-in. So something for everybody. A great contest. Your cumulative scores all add up. So go and check that out, along with the FanDuel Sportsbook, which we're going to highlight some things from, and, of course, the casino as well. So, well, we welcome in my boys here. I'm your host, as always, Beer, joined by Chop, Notorious. Chop, let's go over to you, buddy. How's things? I know you're on the countdown here. Not the countdown most people would think of. You know, we're talking sports here. We're all counting down the NFL season. What's your countdown here, Chop?
My countdown is 12 days. 12 days until school starts for the kiddos. They've been home for 18 months now. I'm happy to get them out of the house, get them back in there with their friends, deal with all that stuff. And so I'm just ready. I got 12 days left till they hit the school, and then I'm you know, a little bit more relaxed around here.
There you go. Let's get over to Derek. Any other countdowns besides NFL for you? I know you still got golf going on. What's counting down in your world?
No more countdowns. Just got back from Disneyland. That was a blast. Very tiring. A lot of people, but a lot of fun. And yeah, doing good. I was able to finally sell some of my top shots that I've been holding on for months. So it feels pretty good to get out of those. And yeah, just excited for NFL. And my little one's starting kindergarten, so it's a strange process for me. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a little weird when they first go off, but then you become like me and Chop, where you start counting the days till these kids are not around 24/7. Everywhere you look, there's kids and their friends are over and they're multiplying. It's like, all right, I need a little bit of breathing room here once in a while. So I'm with you, Chop. We talked pre-show. What's more exciting, the countdown to school starting or the countdown to NFL? Chop, you were torn on these two.
It's a toss-up, man. I love me some NFL, but I tell you, these guys, they need to get back in school. It's just it helps everybody's sanity. So I don't know, man. That'd be a tough one if you ask me. I can only pick one.
I'm torn as well, but we are here to talk NFL, so I'm going to go with that countdown. We will spend the majority of the show here talking NFL running backs from a fantasy lens, obviously, whether it's best ball, season-long, dynasty. We'll try to evaluate it from all different angles. We'll get through as many as we can here. We'll also take your questions. We want to hear from you guys. We do this live. You guys got questions, throw them in the comment section, and we'll try to get to them, whether it's running backs, if you want to go back and talk quarterbacks, which we talked last week, or even better, I want to talk life, food, alcohol, kids, whatever it may be. We're here to answer any and all questions you have. So let's dive into it, guys. Is there anything you guys want to get into in the rest of the sports world? We saw the Olympics kind of wrap up. Summer League basketball's in full swing. Baseball's kind of getting towards a playoff season. Golf is in full swing. So before we get head first into these running backs and get to as many as we can, anything else you want to cover here real quickly before we jump in, Chop?
I don't think so. I just people's probably done with baseball right now until the playoffs start. I don't think they want to hear about that. Olympics gone. NBA Summer League, really, honestly, very few people care about that. There's some DFS out there, I think, but I don't know. So I think people are really starting to gear up for some football. So let's give them what they want.
All right, let's do it. Derek, any other thoughts here? Chop says jump into football. Anything you want to throw in there before we get into it?
I mean, while I feel a little bad for Dennis Schroeder in that situation, I am very much enjoying the memes and gifs getting posted on Twitter. They did one, the deal or no deal, and had the Celtics opening up the box for 5.9, and you just see him crying and LeBron laughing. So if you haven't seen that, it's a pretty good one.
Yeah, pretty good, no doubt. So interesting situation there, but that's Twitter. There's a creative universe out there for sure, no doubt. All right, let's get into running backs again. We're going to use FanDuel's best ball rankings here. So just going to go down their page. You can find that in the NFL tab, and then you just swap over to best ball, a bunch of different contests there in the FanDuel lobby. So make sure you guys go and check that out. Number one running back, obviously no surprise, pretty much number one on any list you're going to look at. Christian McCaffrey, Derek, back, healthy. The weapons are there. Sam Darnold now. The quarterback here, another year under the rule in Brady offensive system here. Not much to say about Christian McCaffrey. I think he's a slam dunk number one pick. The question is, can he stay healthy throughout the season? Is there anyone else that could even stake claim to this number one spot? Anything to add here? I don't think we need to spend a ton of time here. Nick McCaffrey, clearly the cream of the crop. But anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, clearly number one. I mean, in this offense, I think he could catch 100 balls this season. We know what he can do when he's healthy. He's such a good part of the running game and the passing game. Not worried about the quarterback switch whatsoever. I mean, we saw when Mike Davis put up some monster numbers in this offense. So, yeah, I think he's number one. I don't really think there's anybody that close to being number two, but that next tier is pretty solid.
Yeah, for sure. So, Chop, same question. Pretty self-explanatory here with Christian McCaffrey in this offense. Any other thoughts to add to him? Anything we should be wary of with McCaffrey besides, another injury? I think is really the only thing that kind of knock him out.
No, I can't find a way. I can't find any, except for the injury argument. I can't find anything to, rank him any lower than number one. Like he's the cream of the crop, man, when he's healthy. So yeah, he's the number one clear cut.
All right, number two, I think kind of the same thing. Most people are going to have the same number two, and that's Dalvin Cook of the Vikings, another guy that's just so involved in the passing game, the running attack there. Great receivers, Kirk Cousins, kind of an underrated quarterback. So, Chop, will stay with you. This is kind of another no-brainer here. Is Cook your number two? Is there anyone else that could kind of jump in here and steal the spot from him?
I tell you what, McCaffrey's number one by a wide margin. And then for me, oh, man, I think these next four guys, I could make a case for any of them being number two. Especially the next three guys. Elliott's kind of fringe. We'll talk about him, but Cook is good. But the two guys following him, I think, are just as good. Dalvin Cook. I don't know, man. I think he is number two, but just slightly over the other guys. But I think they're all kind of like in the same mix. I worry about a couple things. I worry about maybe the volume being too much on him. And we don't know for sure if he can handle it multiple years in a row of staying healthy. And so there's a few things there that I worry about Dalvin Cook, which the couple guys following him, I think you don't have to worry about some of those things. So he's number two, but it's very, 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 very small margin there.
All right, Derek, your thoughts here. Dalvin Cook looks locked and loaded here in this number two slot. Obviously, injuries, another question here. Alexander Madison, a guy that things go wrong, could fill in, but is Cook your number two? Anyone else that could kind of go up here into this number two range? Some people may throw Kamara up there. I know there's some Derrick Henry supporters. We're going to get to those guys, but is it all Dalvin Cook here too for you as well?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, everyone's talking about his health, but he has played 14 games each of the last 2 years. You mentioned his offensive weapons around him, with Cousins and Jefferson and Thielen. I think they're going to put up a ton of points, and he's one of those guys that just has a knack for finding the end zone. So no issues for me with him at number two.
All right, number three on the list, cruising right along, the aforementioned Derrick Henry, who we know put up an historic season last year. The focal point of this offense over the last few years, but now some changes. Arthur Smith is gone. Julio Jones is in. Do they throw more? The defense is pretty bad. I know that he's a guy that no matter what the game script looks like, is still going to be involved very heavily. But Derrick Henry, can you make the case at number three here, Derek? Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, he's one of those guys you can count on in the second half of the season. Each of the last 2 years, he's had the most rush attempts, the most rush yards, and the most rushing touchdowns. So the workload is going to be there. Teams aren't going to be able to stack the box as long as Brown and Julio stay healthy. The only question is always his involvement in the passing game, but he hasn't needed it the last 2 years. So I'm not worried about the new offensive coordinator. I think he's going to have another big year.
All right, Chop, same questions for you. Derrick Henry, is he your number three? Thoughts? Obviously, the game plan may change a little bit with Julio Jones in town and a bad defense. Does that worry you any here with Derrick Henry?
No, not at all. In the half a point leagues, I could almost make a case for Derrick Henry as number two. The passing game works. He's not going to get there, but Man, I've played long enough to know that fantasy seasonal, at least, that you want those guys late in the year. That's what wins it, is those December guys. And this is what this guy's made his mark on, is December. It's not a fluke. It's the last 3 years in a row in December. Once that calendar turns to December, he averages roughly 130 yards a game, a touchdown and a half, 1.5 touchdowns per game on average in December the last 3 years. And that's not a fluke. He's so big and so strong. He gets stronger as the year goes on. Defenses start to wear down a little bit. Good offensive line. I already think he's going to have a monster year because of the wide receiving core being able to keep guys out of the box on him. There's just no way you can mess around with 8 guys in the box when you got those wide receivers. So I think he's in for a monster year. I could make a case for him at number 2 in some leagues. If you're doing PPR, then obviously not. But anything else, Derrick Henry, man, might be the second best guy off the board.
Yeah, I agree. And the half point, or even the standard, people still call it, which I think PPR is now the new standard, but obviously gains a lot more value in those formats. Not going to catch a ton of passes here, but still going to be very involved in this offense, which I think is going to be very good, very high scoring. You can't focus on him with those wide receivers you got out wide. So I think he's set up for another very good season. Not quite my number 3, but he is right up there for me in the top 5. So let's go to the guy that is my number 3, Chop. That's Alvin Kamara of the Saints. Obviously very involved in the passing game, the focal point of this offense now with Michael Thomas on the shelf. Thoughts here on Kamara, another guy, obviously more valuable in PPR formats than he is in even a half point or a no PPR league. Thoughts here on Alvin Kamara. Are you higher on him now? I know we've talked about this before. Do you worry about him now with no Michael Thomas, what this offense is going to look like? Quick thoughts on Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, just now that we know Michael Thomas isn't going to be there for the first part of the year, it really solidifies him to me. He's only had the one poor year, and then that was poor by his standards. And that was the injury that he suffered, in one of those games early in the year, and he just couldn't get healthy. But when he's healthy, he's been in the league. He's been unstoppable. They design everything around him. And when Michael Thomas isn't playing, this guy gets so many receptions that, he's if you're doing a PPR, there's a case for him as the number 2 guy because he's going to get such volume those first 5 or 6 weeks. But even without that, even in a non-PPR, he's going to be awesome. And then we see he's another one of those guys that later in the year he gets better, man. He maintains his body and maintains his speed and everything. And so he's good later in the year. So, I mean, he's a game changer. So I really like Alvin Kamara.
Now, let me ask you, Taysom Hill versus Jameis Winston. And I know this is a question mark for a lot of people here. And I think, you can make a case either way. Taysom Hill, they're going to go more run heavy. That can help Kamara, but Taysom didn't really throw a lot to the running backs. Jameis, maybe he throws a little bit more to Kamara. So do you have a preference there, Chop, on which quarterback wins the job? And does it affect your ranking of Kamara if it's one or the other?
Oh, you know who I want to win this job.
We know.
I think it helps. I think it helps everybody in this offense if Winston wins this job long term. So I want Winston to win. I think he'll be able to spread it out a little bit more, keep the defenders a little bit more honest, and I just don't trust Taysom Hill. So I want Winston to win this thing.
All right, Derek, Alvin Kamara, thoughts? Does he bump up? Does he take a hit here with this Michael Thomas news? Injury going to be out for a while, possibly being traded even. Well, there's more drama there with this Michael Thomas story, but also any worry about the quarterback situation? Do you want Taysom? Do you want Jameis? Does it matter as far as Kamara goes? Who's the starting quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little lower on him than you guys, it sounds like, but certainly deserves to be in the top 5. I think he's going to be a beast as long as Thomas is out, and especially if he gets traded. Not too worried about the quarterback situation, to be honest. Both the quarterbacks, Winston and Taysom, they don't really throw to running backs. So if you're hoping for one or the other, I don't think it matters all that much. I do think Taysom's going to get the starting gig, and perhaps that does lead to a more, run-heavy approach. And I think that's good for Kamara. So I like him. But probably not as high as you guys. And shout out to Killer B in the chat. Good luck in that fantasy golf championship. Wish I was in that.
Absolutely. I was just about to shout him out. Our boy in the chat also had a question from Keyboy DFS talking quarterbacks, said he's in a standard league, has the 11 pick. It is quarterback driven. What quarterback should I pick? So depends on if it's super flex, then okay, you're going quarterback early. If not, I think we're all big proponents of waiting at the position, getting guys late, really warming up the idea of grabbing a Trey Lance. And if you're not comfortable with him, grab somebody that you think will start, give you some solid weeks, Kirk Cousins, something along those lines until Lance takes over. If it's super flex, I think any of those top five, Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, Mahomes, Dak, and Lamar Jackson, all guys that you can target at that 11 spot. So let's move on here with the running back conversation. Next up, Ezekiel Elliott, a guy that I'm very high on. This is Chop's team, so we'll go to him last here on this one. Derek, I think Zeke's in for a big bounce back season. Now we saw Dak go down. Things kind of went south for Dallas as an offense overall. But with everybody back, CeeDee Lamb in his second year, you got the three wideouts there. Dak looking better by the day. I know there's some concerns with his shoulder. Zeke comes in all trimmed up, ready to roll. I think he's in for a monster season. So this is one of my favorite picks in any draft right now. If I can get Zeke as my anchor RB, my RB1, I'm pretty stoked about it. Where do you come out on Zeke?
Yeah, we're all drinking the Cowboys Kool-Aid, which can only end one way. That usually isn't going to bode well for us because we want Dak MVP. We're looking at the Cowboys Super Bowl futures. But, yeah, Zeke in a really good spot. I love this offense. And generally, it's much better for a running back to come in, losing weight rather than putting on weight in the offseason. We've seen that time and time again. Guys that try to bulk up just lose some of that explosiveness. So, love Zeke. I actually prefer him definitely in the top five. I might actually take him over Kamara.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable debate. He's still going to be involved in the passing game. I know that Tony Pollard is looming, Chop. Is that a concern here with Ezekiel Elliott? So this is your team. Give us a lowdown. How are we feeling about Zeke this year?
No, Pollard doesn't worry me. This is the team I follow the most. So I think I have a pretty good idea about him. And I would say that barring an injury, people who are stretching for Pollard, they're just not going to get rewarded, barring the Elliott injury. So, and he, and Derek nailed it. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a running back gain weight and do better. But when they lose weight, that's when they can get good. So him losing weight shows me mentally that, all right, so he's over that whole, okay, I signed a big contract. I can chill now, man. I'm set for life. I think that was kind of a little bit of mindset last year. Came in, he was a little chubby, and to be honest with you, by NFL running back standards, not by the OG standards, he was still looked pretty good, but came in a little chubby. But now, if you put that kind of work in the offseason to lose weight, that's not an easy thing to do. I think it shows he's got the right mindset. He wants to get in there and win and do well. He knows he underperformed last year, so he's going to get back on track. As long as the offensive line can stay healthy for him, that's the key. They could even lose Dak Prescott. As long as that offensive line was healthy, he's going to get his work. I think Pollard is just kind of an afterthought. He'll spell him a little bit during the game and things like that. But Elliott's the workhorse here. Man, you got to spread them out because the receivers are so good. He's got a lot of things working in his favor right here. The top five, man, are almost interchangeable for me. McCaffrey, gets the edge up top. But like I said, those next four guys, I could make a case for Elliott being number 2, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is, I think McCaffrey, like you said, kind of separates himself. And I do my own rankings and kind of tier things up. This is a group that's kind of the tiered together is this next group of 4, Kamara, Elliott, Henry, and Cook. You can make an argument Cook could be in tier 1, could even be a tier by himself. But I think the top 5, whatever order that you have it in, I think makes a lot of sense here. So kind of following along the ADP here on FanDuel. So let's get into the weeds now. Now it gets a little interesting, and everyone can make an argument on who is their number 6 running back. I think there's a multitude of guys that could fill this role here. FanDuel has Aaron Jones in the spot. So this is my team. I'll go last on this one. Chop, I'm going to send it over to you. But Aaron Jones, we've seen put up some massive games in this offense. Aaron Rodgers back, Devontae Adams back. Obviously going to be the featured running back. No Jamal Williams, but you do have A.J. Dillon looming, who looked good towards the end of last season. A bigger body guy that could steal some goal line looks. Jones been very good around the goal line when he does get that opportunity. So Well, where do you come out here on Aaron Jones, a guy we know is going to catch a lot of passes and offense that's going to score points? Is he worthy of this number 6 spot?
Not for me. Once we got past the top 5, so then I think you got like 8 to 10 guys who are in the same tier here, and Aaron Jones being near the top of that list, and about half of those guys in this tier that's coming up, I kind of don't want any part of. So that's why I make an effort to grab a running back early if I can get in that. Like I'm not doing Travis Kelce, man, early. You know, I'm taking a good running back because once we get to this point, I kind of don't want one until maybe my next pick. So I'm not big on Aaron Jones. I think that there's a lot of red flags, man. Like even without AJ Dillon, they very rarely just turn him loose. And you just want your guy to get turned loose. He'll have the big games, but even in best ball, I want a little bit more consistency. I don't just want 2 big spike weeks throughout the year. I need a little bit of consistency. And now he's a little bit banged up. Now it's AJ Dillon's getting a few more reps. What if we get into week 1 and we realize the first time they get first and goal at the 5, he goes out and AJ Dillon comes in as the goal line back, man, then we're all, you know, if you took Aaron Jones in the top 7 or 8, you're going to be like, oh man, this is what we're going to deal with this year. So I'm hesitant on Aaron Jones. I'm not a big, and he lost some offensive line too. You never know how that's going to work.
And they love to throw around the goal line. I mean, they get very creative with Devontae Adams. You know, Rodgers can still run it in. So, yeah. Noto, any more optimism here on Aaron Jones? Chop, not too happy about him here at number 6. And it's not that you don't like the player. It's just a matter of where do you have to draft them is a lot of the debate here. So I think we all can agree that he's a hell of a player. But you know, I kind of agree with some of the concerns Chop has. Where do you come out here in Aaron Jones?
Yeah, I think 6 is a little too high. I think I have 3 guys in this tier above him. But at the same time, I mean, no Jamal Williams. That's going to be big for his pass game involvement this year. I do worry about A.J. Dillon, you know, still in some run work, but he doesn't really catch a lot of passes. And Jones is electric, both on the ground and through the air. So maybe a little higher on him than Chop and a little lower on him than number 6.
I think I'm higher than both you guys, and I don't know if it's my Packer homerism. I do have some concerns, but again, this is going to be a very high-scoring offense. He's going to be very involved in the passing game outside of Devontae Adams. Not a ton of targets to go around. We saw Tunyon score a ton of touchdowns, but not really a big reception guy. How good is Randall Cobb going to be? So he could be the number 2 pass catcher in a Green Bay Aaron Rodgers-led offense. I think there's big-time upside in that. So they've always used multiple backs. I do get concerned with some of the spike weeks like Chop talked about, but I do think overall that he's going to in for a very massive season. We've seen him have a huge touchdown season before. So, yes, concerns, but I think there's more on the optimism side for me. So I'm actually okay with him here as the next guy behind that top 5. If you don't like it, there's other guys you can draft. And let's go to our next guy on the list here, and that's Nick Chubb, Derek, of Cleveland. I think there's no doubt this guy's one of the best pure runners in the game, but you have a few concerns here. You have not much of a passing game chops here for Nick Chubb. You also have Kareem Hunt, who's going to eat into some of his workload. So a very run-heavy team, obviously more valuable in no PPR or half PPR, but where do you come out here on Nick Chubb at number 7?
I expect him to be maybe the most efficient running back in the NFL, and I'm going to have 0 shares. Like you mentioned, very little involvement in the passing game. Probably has the best backup running back in the NFL in Kareem Hunt. So, yeah, for me, I don't like him, especially this high. I think he's going to, have a lot of 100-yard games, but I just need a little bit more versatility from running back this high.
I agree. This is one I don't agree with at all. I like him as a player. Like I said, I think as a pure running back, a ton of talent. Love Nick Chubb in that sense. A guy that can break off big runs, but no passing game usage, too much Kareem Hunt here. I just have a lot of concerns. Similar to you guys with Aaron Jones, I have similar concerns with Nick Chubb being able to pay this price off. He's got to be very, very much involved in the touchdowns. It almost has to be a 15 touchdown kind of guy to compete with some of these pass catchers here. So I'm kind of out on this Nick Chubb at number 7. Chop, where do you come out here? Was he worthy of this? Too high, too low? What do you think?
Well, this is going to be a little bit too high for me. But with that being said, I love Nick Chubb when he's healthy. I think he's just a dynamic runner. He's probably got maybe the best offensive line, but at worst, a top 3 offensive line in front of him. And I think they're going to be a very run-heavy offense for the most part. And he's going to have plenty of weeks where he goes out there and grabs you 100 yards and scores you at least 1 touchdown. I'm high on Nick Chubb in general. Putting him this high in a draft for fantasy seasonal, man, that's a little rough. But, boy, he's a phenomenal football player just as a running back. The speed, the ability to break tackles, the offensive line. Man, I like it a lot.
All right, let's move on to number 8 here in the FanDuel best ball streets. We have Austin Eckler of the Chargers. Obviously another guy that's in line for a ton of work in the passing game, Chop. The worry is how much work is he going to get around the goal line here? You know, the Chargers love to use another back. We'll see. There's about 3 guys that could take that spot: Justin Jackson, Larry Roundtree, and Joshua Kelly. So thoughts on Eckler? Again, more valuable in a PPR format. Is he worthy here at number 8 on FanDuel?
Man, this is a tough one right here. I think he's worthy. This is one of the guys in this tier that I like the most for sure. But you know, I've already heard rumblings of when they get around the goal line, one of these other guys is going to vulture him. That's not good. We've had some issues the last couple of years with injuries. That's not good. So I love him. I love the offense. I think he's a spectacular player. But, man, there's a few things here I don't like. But, man, if this guy were to stay healthy here this year and he gets a couple of looks around the goal line, I think he could be the next guy after that top 5 that is worthy of a pick, in my opinion. I just like the offense a lot, man. I think there's going to be a lot of room to run for this guy.
I'm with you here. I like him. I obviously like him more in a full point PPR setting. It's half point PPR here on FanDuel, so he kind of loses some value. I think some of the other guys coming up behind him probably have more value, or they're going to still be involved in the passing game. Not as much as Eckler, but guys are going to be much more involved in the ground game and again around the goal line. So, Derek, that's my concern with Eckler, and he may very well be the 75-25 of committee and get some goal line usage, but it seems like the passing game is mainly where he's going to make his money. Is that enough to spend a pick this high in a half-point PPR setting?
Yeah, I think I'm going to have a lot of Eckler this season. I like that they have a new coaching staff. They brought in Joe Lombardi as their offensive coordinator from the Saints. He was their quarterbacks coach. We saw, what Alvin Kamara was able to do in a system like that. So I think they're going to utilize him like that. It sounds like, he's going to be in for a really big year. So there are some goal line concerns for sure, but like the offense and really like him, especially full PPR, but even half PPR.
All right, if you're out there listening, you want to chime in on some of your favorite running backs, agree, disagree with what we're saying, please use that comment section, and we'll try to get you involved here in the show. Moving on to number 9 here on the list, Saquon Barkley, Derek. A lot of talk, a lot of concern with Saquon Barkley. And the fact, is he going to be ready for week 1? He's kind of shunned off that question. Some say he may not play till week 3. Even if he is playing, maybe he's not playing a full complement of snaps. So that's a concern. Obviously, the offense led by Daniel Jones, Jason Garrett as a coordinator, that's a concern. So where do you come out on Saquon? Because I think we could all agree this guy's the old generational talent, the term people love to throw around. And again, love the player, but do the concerns outweigh the potential upside here with Saquon Barkley?
I think the upside is worth it at this price point. There are concerns for sure with the injury and with them limiting him, but who knows? Could be all coach speak at this point. Still got a lot of time to get ready for the start of the season. The talent's there. The offense can't be worse than it was last year. And I'm just willing to bet on talent. He's still only 24 years old. Give me some Saquon at number 9.
Chop, same questions. Concerns about his availability, the offense, Jason Garrett, or is the upside worth it here and rolling the dice at number 9 on Saquon Barkley?
Whew. He's one of the guys up to this point that I don't like drafting in the top 10. The knee injury, coming off the knee injury and everything, it scares me. And we don't know about the offensive line, if it's going to be any better than it was in the past couple of years. So I am leery, but then you look back to him as a rookie where he went for like 2,000 yards altogether and 15 touchdowns, and the upside is there. And maybe they limit him early, and that would be great because then maybe he's fresher later. And like I said, I want guys who are going to get it done in December when the playoffs roll around in fantasy. So I'm not so worried about the limiting him early, but I am worried about just the injury in general affecting him and a bad offensive line. So who knows, man? I'm not a big buyer on Saquon in the top 10 so far this year.
I'm leaning more your direction here in this chat. I guess my head's got to go that way, leaning your way. But yeah, I just too many concerns. I mean, when he falls far enough, sure. Because Derek, I agree with you. There is upside here. He can be very involved in the passing game, but how good is this offense going to be? I worry about Garrett being aggressive with him. Are they going to ease him in? So it's been an easy pass for me in the top 10 as well, Chop. Now, if he's falling to the early second round, which I haven't seen a lot of, but I have seen recently, I think there you can take a swing and go for that upside. So it just kind of depends on where he falls in drafts. Easier to pick him here at 9 than early on when he was, very much in that top 5. So kind of falling. If he falls far enough, I'm fine with it. But in that top 10, I agree. I think it's a little bit too risky here with your first round pick. So number 11, another guy I kind of have some concerns with here, Chop. Jonathan Taylor. It's a Wisconsin boy. Loved what I saw at the end of last season, but again, you have Carson Wentz dealing with an injury. You have some of the linemen already hurt. A guy that can be game scripted out, and you see Nyheim Hines come in as a pass catcher. So where do we land on Jonathan Taylor? He's kind of in the same camp with Saquon. The value is falling. So is it falling far enough? Is it still risky? What are you seeing here with Jonathan Taylor?
Man, what a bizarre rookie year for Taylor. Like when he started out and through like 8 or 9 weeks, he had very, very few times where he looked and said, man, this guy could be pretty good. He wasn't. He just didn't look good at all. Then something happened. He got it together, and man, he was like a GPP winner a couple of those weeks down the stretch. So I kind of I don't know where I fall on Taylor as far as long-term prognosis, but I did read something the other day. I forget who put it out there on Twitter, but said something about the Colts and when they get behind in games, his usage compared to when they're ahead. And it really made you think how game script dependent he is. That scares me a lot, especially if we don't know what Carson Wentz is going to do early in the year. Now they're saying maybe he's back by week 1. We also heard maybe he's not back till like week 9. Who knows, man? So I'm a little leery on Jonathan Taylor. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I'm with you. He's in the same boat as Saquon for me. If they fall far enough, I'm okay with it. But a lot of concerns here with Jonathan Taylor. Again, love the talent. You guy's a hell of a running back, but too many things that can go against him where you're putting your first round pick. You need to hit on that pick. You miss this pick. It's not necessarily a death sentence, but I think there's safer options that provide as much upside as he does. So, Noto, before we go to you, again, some love in the chat here. Beat Boss says, how many cool hats do you own? So Noto's hat game on point. Guesstimate, how many hats are owned by Notorious, Chop? We're going to play a little over-under here, Chop. How many hats does Noto own? Just not cool, just total hats.
Gotta go 23.
I'm going to go higher because I know Noto's dealing with a little bit of hair loss there. So, he wants to cover the dome. So I'm sure he's got a wide variety of hats here. So I'm going to say 50. 50 is a good round number.
Oh, 50's high. Shout out to B-Boss. He always complimenting me on my hat game. But yeah, I probably have about 20. I buy a lot of hats, right, but I go through them. Once I'm done with them, I just kind of recycle them. So yeah, I think Chop's going to win that one.
Keeping them fresh. Get them out of the rotation. Get them fresh hats in there. I like it. So, Derek, thoughts on Jonathan Taylor here? Too high, too low? Worried about him? What do you think?
Worried about him, but I like Frank Reich. I like this offensive line. I think this offense could be good if Wentz looks all right. And look, he caught 38 of 41 passes thrown his way last year. So we're getting reports that he's more involved in the passing game so far in camp. So I do think there's some upside there, but probably a little too high for me.
All right, let's move on to the top 10. RB11, a rookie, Najee Harris of the Steelers. Obviously was a stud at Alabama. That draft pick was probably the easiest one to predict in the history of draft picks. We knew Pittsburgh was taking a running back here. The weaponry is there as far as wide receivers go. We'll see if Big Ben can get through another year here. Obviously, offensive line concerns, but Najee Harris, Derek, too high, too low here at number 11.
Offensive line is terrible, but I don't care. Sign me up. This is the running back for the Steelers. That's the spot I've been targeting for 15 years, however long it's been. It's he's going to get the workload. They don't really have anyone else. They used all the draft capital on him. We know Big Ben loves to check down to his running backs. So yeah, give me all the Najee right here.
Yeah, I'm a big fan as well. 11 may be a little bit too high. There's a couple guys coming up that I like more, but I think we can count on the volume chop. I think we can count on a guy that they're not going to be able to stack the box on. You're our college football resident expert here, so give us the lowdown here. Najee Harris, does he transition well to the NFL? Do you like the fit here with Pittsburgh? And are you drafting him here at number 11 on FanDuel?
Najee Harris is going to be a really good running back. He's physically talented as heck, man. So he's got that going for him. In all the drafts I've done so far, I don't have a Najee Harris team. I hate him at this spot. I hate him this high. And for what Derek said, the offensive line, I think, is terrible. So I just haven't seen anybody really be able to thrive behind this offensive line. So, I'm not pushing for him here. I know he could catch a few passes, but then they got this guy, Deontay Johnson. All he does is run little 5-yard routes. So how much is that going to eat into his pass catching? I don't know. So I think the talent's there, but man, there's a lot of running backs you could put who are super talented. You put them in a bad spot and they were bad, and then all of a sudden they get in a better spot behind a good offensive line or a good offensive coordinator, and you realize, oh, that guy was actually pretty good. Well, Najee may be one of those guys down the road who looks really good, but behind this offensive line with a quarterback who looks like he's going to have trouble getting the ball downfield. Yeah, I don't know, man. I hate this spot for him right here. I haven't drafted one Najee Harris team yet.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I like the talent. The situation could be better, obviously. But again, there's guys coming up that I like more, I think provide more upside and have some similar concerns. But I think guys that will be more involved in the passing game. But again, you can always bet on volume. I think you're going to get that here with Najee Harris. You mentioned Deontay Johnson. You still have a guy like Chase Claypool who can open things up down the field. So just a little bit too high. I like the player. If I can get him a few spots later, you can buy low on him, okay. At this number 11, I think he's a little bit overvalued. So, Chop, let's go to number 12, a guy that I'm very high on, Antonio Gibson, who we saw come in a little bit of a slow start, but once he got things rolling, we really saw him fulfill that pedigree that we saw at Memphis, where the guy was just an athlete, put the ball in his hands, let things happen. Now they're talking about using him more as a receiver. We saw J.D. McKissick kind of dominate the receiving work there for Washington. So if he's going to get the usage he got in the ground, we saw him score a ton of touchdowns, give him more usage in the passing game, and now you have a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick there under center. I think that enhances this offense as well. I really like Antonio Gibson here. I would take him easily over Najee Harris here. What about you? Top 12 here. Does he deserve it or not?
I am very much on the fence about Gibson. This is a very aggressive spot for him to be landing, considering there's not a whole lot of track record. The offense should be better with Ryan Fitzpatrick, but that should be mainly the passing game. How much better is the running game going to be? Maybe slightly better. The offensive line, I don't think upgraded a whole lot. It's just a really high spot for him. I do like him. I do see the potential, and sometimes you take a chance on a guy like this in a draft nice and early, and then by the end of the year, you're looking going, oh, man, next year Antonio Gibson is going to be a top 5 guy because he just shows you that. So I get that aspect of it. It's a little high for me with this track record of, just like 1 year and it wasn't great. And they may give him a little bit extra run in the passing game, but that J.D. McKissick guy is still there, and he's, going to catch a lot of passes. It's an aggressive spot for him. I don't have very many Antonio Gibson teams, definitely more than Najee Harris, but it's aggressive, man. I'm not so sure I love this spot.
Chop, I got to know who's in your basketball arsenal because you haven't drafted anybody yet. So I think
I laid the blueprint out already. If I can get a top 5 guy at running back, that's who I'm going. Once those 5 guys are off the board, then I usually take a really good. That means there's a good wide receiver, a couple good wide receivers still left. So I'm grabbing one of them. And then if I can come back around to this second tier of guys who we're going to talk about here in a minute, then those are the guys I do like. So top 5, great. I think there's a big drop off, and then it comes back here in just a minute.
All right, we'll see if we can dig out some guys Chop's like. And here as we move along, I'm going to speed things up here. Once we get through the top 12, Derek, your thoughts? Antonio Gibson, I'm pretty high on him. Chop's low on him. Break the tie here. Where do you land on Gibson?
Yeah, for him to return value right here, we're kind of banking on that increased pass game involvement, but I think we get it. I mean, in college, he played more snaps at wide receiver than he did at running back. We were all kind of surprised that he wasn't more involved as a pass catcher last year. Sounds like they want to get him more involved. Sounds like they're practicing with him in the hurry up. He didn't play much in the hurry up last year. So, yeah, I like him more than Chop. I think he's certainly fine here.
All right, number 13 here in the FanDuel lobby, Joe Mixon, another guy that I think this is the guy. If you're going to wait, you want to swing for the fences here. It could go terribly wrong like we've seen in the past, but I think there's a ton of upside here, Derek. The weapons are there. The offensive line is the big concern here, but I don't think they can be as bad as they were last season. So they get Jonah Williams back. I think that's going to help. You bring in Jamar Chase. That's going to make things difficult for a defense trying to stack the box on Joe Mixon and Gio Bernard now in Tennessee. So maybe he takes on more of a 3-down role. We don't have many of those guys left, and those are the guys that generally land in the top 5. So if anything, I think Mixon could be a top 5 running back. We're getting him here at RB 13. So am I too high? Am I crazy? I'm going to fall for it again. But I think Joe Mixon, one of the best values in drafts, period, this season. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, we've all talked about how much we like the Bengals offense this year. It's just going to come down to, Burrow and the offensive line. I think Burrow's going to be fine. The offensive line, I'm not so sure about that, but the work or the volume is going to be there. And, so many weapons in this offense. You got to think they're going to move the ball. And, I like them.
Chop, I know you hate everybody in this range. Where does Joe Mixon fall in that camp for you?
I actually like Joe Mixon. He's okay. I mean, I definitely don't hate him. I don't like the offensive line situation, and man, for the life of me, I don't understand why you sat in there with that draft pick and you didn't take maybe a generational offensive lineman from Oregon, as opposed to Jamar Chase could be great, but we're already like.
Did you see that route he ran though?
Listen, he got. I think he's going to be good, but you have T. Higgins, who could also be very good. You have Tyler Boyd, who's this slot machine, and you already have weapons. I don't know. You just needed an offensive lineman, especially with a quarterback coming off of a bum knee, man, and you didn't take it. So I think that hurts Joe Mixon, the offensive line. But looking at Joe Mixon, he was hurt at the end of last year. He was hurt for most of last year. 2 years before that, 19 and 18. He closed out the years very, very strong for Cincinnati. 100-yard games in like multiple weeks in the last 5 weeks in both of those years. He catches balls. He's one of the best all-around running backs in the NFL. I think if he can stay healthy, he can definitely win you a championship. I do like Joe Mixon.
All right, let's move on to number 13, and then we'll kind of group some guys together and try to get through a bunch of guys. But this one is a hot-button topic in a lot of drafts, a lot of conversations I've been involved in. Is Clyde Edwards-Helaire here, Chop? It seems that people either are buying in and basically a Kansas City running back holding so much value and, pointing out that he did have a good start to the season. He's going to be involved in the passing game. Then there's the other camp that says – they're going to use multiple backs. They're not going to throw to him as much out of the backfield, and they'll point to the end of the season, even the Super Bowl usage for a guy like Darrell Williams. They bring in Le'Veon Bell midway through the season. So are they really sold on CEH here? So I'm more in the optimistic camp. I think they spent a first-round pick on this guy. Again, that role is very valuable to us in fantasy. I think he has a pretty good year here. Where do you come out on Clyde Edwards-Helaire? Because it seems like you either love him or you hate him this season. There doesn't seem to be much middle ground. Where are you at here on CEH?
I love him and I hate him. I don't know. I'm going to middle ground you here.
All right, there you are.
I don't think he's a middle ground guy. He's either going to be good or he's going to be bad. So I don't know. It's tough to say because watching him last year, he started out week 1, man. He had a really good week, right? 100 plus yards, and he scored a touchdown. But didn't he get stuffed at the goal line a bunch? And then we were like,
5 times.
Yeah.
But he'll get in though eventually. Well, no, you know what? I don't think he ever got in. Like maybe once the rest of the year. Like he just couldn't get in the end zone. He had opportunities, and then after that first week, outside of that one game against Buffalo where they backed everybody off and let him run, every other week he was terrible. So I'm worried about that. But they did upgrade the offensive line quite a bit, and I just know this offense with Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback and all those weapons, there's going to be plenty of room to run. So I got to think that, it's either going to be one or the other. He's really bad or he's really good. I think he's between those two choices. He's going to be really good because there's going to be so many opportunities in this offense. He can't fail any worse than he did last year. Just hopefully he gets the opportunity, but I don't really see anybody behind him that's going to threaten him for any playing time. So take a look at their depth chart real quick. Yeah, I mean, they didn't
Darrell
bring
Williams, Jared
McKinnon. Jared McKinnon scares me a little bit, but he's been so injured. I guess you can't depend on him. And I kept always hearing this name, Darwin Thompson. It's just I think that ship has sailed. So there it is. It's set up for him to have a monster year. So I got to be on that train.
Yeah, I fell for Darwin Thompson, more so in Dynasty, and this is the guy, and he's the next big thing, and not so much. And McKinnon is a worry. I mean, imagine a healthy McKinnon, which we haven't seen in a while, in a Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes-led offense. That's dangerous. So he is a little bit of a concern, even though he's down the depth chart. We've seen Darrell Williams steal a lot of snaps, Derek, but we got 2 in the optimistic camp here for CEH. Is it 3 for 3 here, or do you have more concerns than Chop and I have?
It's 3 for 3, but more because of his role and not his talent. I mean, he was certainly a disappointment last year. You could plug anyone in that offense and get those type of numbers. Just bring somebody off this tree. I think, Chop could get those type of numbers last year for the Chiefs.
Let's not get crazy now. Chop's well past his prime. I mean, a running back's prime is
man. Not that far past his prime.
I mean, you'd be like the Frank Gore running around out there, 2.5 yards at a clip.
Bizarre, man. Bizarre that Noto would throw me under the bus like that.
I'm trying to give you credit.
I hear from Kirk Deese all day long. All night long, all I hear in the Discord chat is Chop could strike this guy out. Chop could strike this guy out. And now Derek throws me under the bus, man.
Could you run through the tires better than a friend of ours?
I think I could do that much. I think I could handle the tires better than old Craney did.
All right, that's still one of my favorite videos of all time. So if you don't know what we're talking about, I'm sure it's out there somewhere. Eric Crane in the tires. Love you, buddy. Let's group the next few guys together here. Try to speed things up there. Or Chop, we'll stay with you. David Montgomery, who we saw basically a tale of 2 seasons, really came on at the end of the year, but do we get Tariq Cohen back? I know he's dealing with some injuries. Damian Williams back from his COVID stint, so maybe he steals some work. J.K. Dobbins looked very good, but you have Gus Edwards looming there in that Baltimore backfield, and Chris Carson, who the issue is always, can he stay healthy? If he is, I think he belongs in this group. So quick thoughts on these 3, drafting him in these spots. So we're at RB 14, 15, and 16. Do you have a favorite? Guys you're avoiding? Quickly wrap on these 3.
Yeah, not a huge David Montgomery. I think there's a lot of things that could go wrong for David Montgomery this year, so I'm not a huge on him. But the other guys in this category, I really do like, and I think they could prosper. And there's some workhorses between these guys and the next couple guys after this. This is where I'd love to draft another running back right here.
Yeah, Carson's probably my favorite out of this group, and it's kind of a boring pick. You draft Chris Carson, you're not doing somersaults. Not as sexy as J.K. Dobbins, but Derek, he's my favorite here. I think that offense is going to be good. If they're going to go more up-tempo, I think that's going to help him out. Dobbins, I have concerns. Again, you got Lamar Jackson stealing a lot of the work. You got Gus Edwards is going to get his work, and I'm with Chop. Montgomery was great at the end of last season, but the majority of his career, he's been an average running back at best. So I think we go back to that mold in what could be a pretty bad offense, even if Justin Fields takes the field. So Carson, for me, kind of a pass on the other 2. What do you got on these 3?
Yeah, definitely passing on Montgomery. The reason why he was so good last year is because he was playing every snap. Tariq Cohen back. You mentioned Damian Williams as well. So, worries me, especially in his pass game involvement. Dobbins, I think he'll be fine. But, Lamar Jackson doesn't throw running backs that often. You mentioned Gus Edwards. They gave him $9 million, so they want him to be pretty involved as well. So I agree. I'm pretty high on Chris Carson. Doesn't really have a lot of, competition in that backfield. So if he can stay healthy, see a lot of people point to him as their fade of the draft, and I don't really see it.
Yeah, I don't get it. It's you still got the Rashad Penny truthers out there that he's finally back at practice after 10 years, and now we're worried about him stealing work. So Carson, to me, it's health. If he stays healthy, he'll be fine. Derek, next three, we got Josh Jacobs of the Raiders. Always a hot button topic. Kenyon Drake now in that backfield as well. Darrell Henderson, a guy whose ADP has skyrocketed since the Cam Akers injury. Is he going to be the workhorse with the Rams? And DeAndre Swift, who's dealing with a little bit of a groin injury here, but in a bad offense. Is he going to do enough in the pass catching game to justify this price here? So we'll group these three together: Jacobs, Henderson, Swift. What do you got on these three?
No thanks on Josh Jacobs. Doesn't catch a lot of balls. Kenyon Drake's going to cut into his workload. I will take some shares of DeAndre Swift. I mean, it's new coaching staff, new quarterback as well, but, maybe they finally run the ball a little bit more. The thing with the Lions over the last few years, they just haven't run the ball that much. We like his talent. So as long as he's good to go injury-wise, I like him. And then, Henderson, I mean, he has the potential to be, a top 5, top 10 guy, RB1 in a McVay offense. So I think the upside's worth it at least.
Yeah, I like swinging for the fences with Henderson out of this group. I am out on Jacobs. Again, I love the talent, but they just don't utilize him like we thought they would out of Alabama. Now Drake going to steal the pass catching opportunities. How good are they going to be? They're going to be playing from behind a lot, so I'm out on him unless he slides dramatically. Swift is a guy I'm fading. I don't think this offense is going to be good at all. So he's going to have to catch 100 balls here and fend off Jamal Williams to really make hay even at this price. So again, love the talent. If the guy's on another team, if he's on the Chiefs, we're all systems go. But on a bad Lions team, how much work is he going to get? So Henderson, for me, out of this group, Chop. The other two I'm kind of avoiding. What do you got here? Henderson, Jacobs, and Swift.
Hate Josh Jacobs. Ain't playing Josh Jacobs. No Josh Jacobs teams for me. Henderson, I think he could be very good. It worries me a little bit that they're not going to fully unleash him and give him all the downs, and he could get into a big-time committee. I just think maybe they want to keep him fresh for later on in the year. So that worries me. But, everything – offensive line's fine. Offensive coordinators and coaches are great. The quarterback is now really good. There's a lot of good things about Henderson. And Swift, I'm actually really liking DeAndre Swift a lot. I think if he can stay healthy, that's always been his problem, even going back to college. But if he can stay healthy, I think they improved the offensive line enough. This could be a very sneaky team right here that just ground and pound, ground control. They got that's the mindset of the coach, ground and pound. So, and I think Swift could be a big benefactor of that. So, beneficiary of that. So I like DeAndre Swift quite a bit if he can just stay healthy.
Yeah, that offensive line should be good. That may be the strength of that team. So we'll see if they're going to pound it even when they're losing, and then maybe you get some value here. Just a lot of concerns for me. So next three, Travis Etienne, the round 1 rookie going to Jacksonville. Miles Sanders here with Philadelphia, and we talked about him earlier. Kareem Hunt, the backup, I guess, to Nick Chubb, or the 1B, however you want to phrase it here, Chop. So out of this group, I like Etienne. I think he's going to get a lot of use in the passing game. We'll see how good that offense is with Trevor Lawrence, but I think they're going to use this guy a lot. Sanders, I have some concerns with. Sounds like Boston Scott may be the backup, getting some work here. Again, how good is that offense going to be? Jalen Hurts is going to steal opportunities on the ground. And Kareem Hunt's just a guy. If he falls far enough, okay, you're going to get work out of him, which is great. If something happens to Chubb, we hoped that would have been bigger than it was last season, but obviously a benefactor there for an injury. So ETN for me, Hunt is okay. Sanders, I'm pretty much out on, Chop. Your thoughts on these three?
ETN scares me quite a bit with James Robinson there, who showed he was really good last year. That does scare me. So I'm not as high on ETN as it sounds like you are. Kareem Hunt, I'm not high on because I just don't like – I get it. If Nick Chubb gets hurt and all the other stuff, you got you a big-time back. But otherwise, you're just dependent on an injury because otherwise he's just a backup running back. I don't want to take backup running backs this high. And then there's Miles Sanders, who polarizing, man. He's got a good offensive line. But I just think that's going to be a poor team this year. And so for those reasons, I probably don't have nearly as much Miles Sanders as the field.
All right, Derek, you're our Jacksonville Jags expert. I saw you nodding along with Chop. So are you worried about James Robinson affecting ETN's value, or are you all systems go there and then add in some Miles Sanders and Kareem Hunt? Where do you come out on those two guys?
In this format with the half PPR, I just think that's a little too high. I know Urban Meyer and them just kind of inherited James Robinson, not really his guy. I think they're going to use ETN quite a bit, and I think he's going to be awesome. But I just think he's going a little too high here. And I'm keeping my expectations low for my Jags. That's how you don't get disappointed. The other guys, yeah, I agree with you guys. You can't really draft based on a potential injury. So Kareem Hunt would be awesome if Chubb went down. And if not, he's probably going to disappoint a little bit. And I agree with everything you guys said on Sanders.
All right, next three is interesting here. You got all guys that performed last season and have different question marks for different reasons this year. Mike Davis, now that the starting running back with Atlanta, the case for him is there's nobody else there. They brought in Deonta Foreman. We'll see if that means anything, but pretty thin depth chart behind him. Myles Gaskin, who was the guy with Miami, but we know that there's other guys there they can use, including Malcolm Brown coming over from the Rams. And then the aforementioned James Robinson was fantastic last year as an undrafted rookie. Probably helped a lot of you guys win best ball drafts if you even drafted him, or season-long leads picking him up. So, Derek, these guys all very interesting, all guys that some people love them, some hate them, some trust them, some don't. Make the case for any or none of these guys here as kind of a questionable mid-round picks.
Again, Jaguars wait-and-see approach for me, so probably won't be taking a ton of James Robinson. But like Mike Davis, I'm a sucker for volume at the position. I think he's going to be pretty involved in the passing game. We saw what he can do last year. And then the other guy, Myles Gaskin. So the thing with the Dolphins is, we think of them last year and they just had so many different guys mixing in, but it was because somebody was always hurt. It seemed like when one of those guys was healthy, they got that running back one type of volume. So I do like Gaskin. I think he could be sneaky this year. I like the Dolphins as a whole, kind of.
All right, Chop, we got Mike Davis, we got Myles Gaskin, and we got James Robinson. So you liking any of these guys? You avoiding them? What are you doing with these three?
Totally avoiding James Robinson. No interest there. Like Myles Gaskin, I don't mind the running back one on this offense. I think this offense is going to be pretty good this year. And I love Mike Davis because Atlanta Falcons running backs, when they're actually healthy, can be really, really good. And so I love Mike Davis, and I like Myles Gaskin at these draft spots. James Robinson, no interest in at all.
All right, we're going to grab some rookies here. We're going to group one teammate in with this. So group of four, we got Trey Sermon with San Francisco. We'll throw Mostert in there as well. They kind of get grouped together. You have Javonte Williams in Denver now. Is it Gordon? Is it Williams? And then you have Michael Carter, who came out, was the RB1 the first portion of training camp with Tevin Coleman there, Ty Johnson there. So all very talented backs, Chop. You know these guys very well from the college scene. So these three rookies, Raheem Mostert, interest level here in these guys.
Not very much right now. I know you can take a chance on rookies, and that could be a huge payday in seasonal fantasy. But for me, Sermon and Mostert, San Francisco, I just don't ever see them giving one guy, like a lot of the work, barring injuries, multiple injuries. I think he'll always spread it out. So those guys cancel each other out. Javonte Williams is kind of interesting. Michael Carter for the Jets, I think, is going to have a hard time getting all the snaps or getting a lot of the snaps from Coleman. So Javonte is the most interesting. But even then, he's got some veterans behind him. So, yeah, these guys just haven't really made the cut for me so far this year.
All right, I don't know if I'm a sucker for rookies, Derek, but I love all three of these guys. San Francisco is one of the easiest schedules this season. Their closing schedule is cake in the playoffs. I think it's a matter of time before Sermon is the starting running back. That may happen from day one, which means I'm out on Mostert. Love the talent, love the explosiveness, but and I also like Javonte Williams. I think it's only a matter of time before he overcomes Melvin Gordon. And Carter, the concern, I'm with you, Chop. The offense could be bad, led by Zach Wilson, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's good. They have weapons on the outside at pass catcher. I like taking swings on all three of these guys, Derek. Where do you come out on these rookies, Sermon, Carter, and Javonte Williams?
Yeah, I always merit to, taking rookie running backs. I don't mind all three of them. I think Mostert has some value as well, too, especially if he's dropping in drafts. I think the Niners probably going to lead the league in rushing, at least close to it. And we've seen what Mostert can do. I mean, he's a guy that can, make big plays. So I don't mind all four of these guys, but probably not going to have a ton of exposure. And the Zach Wilson quotes, were those real the other day that they're saying he's Sam Darnold 2.0 already?
Sounds like there's some unhappy folks in Jetland once again. So, yeah, I believe those are real. I took them as real, so who knows? But not sounding great. So, all right, we're at an hour. We're going to finish here with two teammates here. Just really, really quickly, Derek. Chase Edmonds, James Conner. Preference between those two?
I mean, we haven't seen anything from Conner for a while, so give me Edmonds.
I like Edmonds as well. I don't mind Conner as a deep kind of later pick. And then the other one, Derek, I'll stay with you. We got to talk Tampa Bay. Leonard Fournette, Ronald Jones. I know Gio's there as well, but a preference between those two. And the answer could be neither, and that's kind of where I'm leaning here. But what are you doing with Tampa Bay?
Yeah, neither of those guys for me. I think Gio could be interesting, not as a season-long guy, but cheap flyer in DFS maybe.
And that would put you on the spot here. Anyone else that you want to bring up that we didn't get a chance to talk about? We could probably go on for another hour here talking more running backs, but is there anyone else further down the list, a guy that maybe you've drafted, keeping an eye on? If you don't have anybody, that's all right, but I want to throw you the floor here one more time.
Yeah, I got nothing else for now.
All right, Chop, same questions to you. Arizona, Chase Edmonds, James Conner, maybe both, maybe neither. Preference there?
Chase by a wide margin.
All right, and then Tampa Bay, same. Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette, both or neither?
Out of the Tampa Bay, I probably the guy I would want to draft the most is probably Gio Bernard, to be honest with you.
Yeah, could be the new James White for Tom Brady. And any other running backs, Chop, that you're liking? I know you're digging deeper down your list here. So you got any names for the people?
I don't think we mentioned this guy, and I think he could have a good year if things break well for him. Damian Harris. For New England. I think they're going to run the ball a lot. Great offensive line. And if he's going to be the number one guy, we've seen New England guys, man, going back to, some of the bigger guys can rack up touchdowns in his offense. So I like me some Damian Harris.
For me, if you guys we didn't mention, A.J. Dillon, I think is a nice late-round pick. Even though I like Aaron Jones, I do think that he's going to have some value. I really like Latavius Murray. I think the Saints are going to be very much run-heavy. So he's going to have an expanded role here. Jamal Williams in Detroit. I don't like Swift. Part of the reason is because I like Williams. Gus Edwards, another pick I like. I'm not high on Dobbins because I like Edwards. And Xavier Jones of the Rams, I think could be very sneaky here, working alongside Darrell Henderson, maybe a 50-50. Maybe he's not, but I think it's worth a swing for the fences late in your draft with Xavier Jones. So that will wrap us up. We talked a lot of running backs here. We had some great interaction with you guys here, mostly talking Derek's hats, but we want to talk more real life stuff on some of the upcoming shows as well, hats, food, whatever it may be, but wanted to get through a ton of running backs. It's a very important position in fantasy. So, guys, any final thoughts for the people before we get out of here? Chop.
No, we're just next time we're on here, it's the countdown timer will really be coming down on us. So we're good, man. We appreciate everybody tuning in and just keep up the support.
That's it. Football is almost here. School is almost here. So win-win on both. Derek, final thoughts for the people here before we get out of here.
I promise we'll have some giveaways soon enough. They will be we'll get the contest figured out, the season-long prizes, all that stuff. There's some potential koozie talk in the mix as well.
Yep, working hard with the fine folks over at FanDuel, so we will have something for you hopefully sooner rather than later as far as contest giveaways, so stay tuned for that. As Chop said, thank you for listening. Thank you to the folks over at FanDuel for sponsoring the program here, and we are the DFS OGs. We'll talk to you next week. For Chop, for Notorious, I am Beermakersfan. Salut. Thank you for listening. We're out.